Nobody sits women down and tells them this, but the things that truly leave a lasting impression on a man often go much deeper than surface-level attraction. It is easy to believe that being unforgettable comes from having the perfect appearance, saying the funniest things, being the most confident person in the room, or creating an image that makes everyone pay attention. But attraction that lasts is rarely built on a single moment or a carefully created performance. Physical appearance can create interest. A charming personality can create curiosity. Confidence can create attraction. But what makes someone stay in another person's mind is often something much harder to explain. It is the emotional experience they associate with that person. It is the way they felt around them. It is the sense that something about that connection was different from everything else they have experienced. The women who leave a deep impression are often not trying desperately to be unforgettable. They are not constantly searching for ways to impress, prove themselves, or compete for attention. Instead, they carry something that feels rare, a strong connection with themselves. A woman who is deeply connected to herself does not enter every room wondering how she is being perceived. She is not mentally calculating whether she is attractive enough, interesting enough, successful enough, or worthy enough of someone's attention. She understands that her value does not rise and fall based on someone else's reaction to her. This inner security creates a different kind of presence. When someone is constantly trying to prove themselves, their energy often becomes focused on receiving approval. They may carefully choose every word, adjust their personality to fit expectations, or hide certain parts of themselves because they fear rejection. They are not fully experiencing the moment because part of them is always watching from the outside, asking, "Am I doing enough to be liked?" But someone who has built a strong relationship with themselves moves differently. They are able to show up as they are. They can laugh freely, express their opinions, and share their thoughts without constantly worrying about whether everyone will agree. Their confidence does not come from believing they are better than others. It comes from knowing they do not need to become someone else to be worthy of love and respect. That kind of self-acceptance is powerful because it creates emotional freedom. A woman who knows herself does not chase every opportunity to be chosen. She understands that the right connections are not built through constant performance. They are built through honesty, compatibility, and mutual effort. She can appreciate attention without depending on it. She can enjoy admiration without needing it to define her. She can love someone deeply without abandoning herself in the process. This is what makes her presence memorable. People often notice when someone is comfortable in their own skin because it creates a sense of calm. There is no desperate need to control the outcome, no constant attempt to convince others of her worth, and no fear-driven effort to hold on to something that is not aligned. She is not trying to be the most interesting person in the room. She is simply fully present in her own life. That presence allows genuine connection to happen. Instead of asking, "How can I make someone choose me?" she asks, "Is this person someone I genuinely choose?" Instead of seeing relationships as a place to search for validation, she sees them as a place to share experiences, growth, and emotional connection. This shift changes the entire dynamic. When a person knows their own worth, they naturally develop stronger boundaries. They are kind, but they are not endlessly available to people who do not respect them. They are loving, but they do not confuse love with sacrificing their peace. They are understanding, but they do not ignore their own needs to keep someone else comfortable. This balance creates a sense of emotional maturity. A woman connected to herself also becomes more curious about life. She continues learning, growing, exploring, and developing her own interests. Her happiness is not placed entirely in another person's hands. She has created a life that already has meaning, and a relationship becomes an addition rather than the foundation of her identity. That is often what makes someone deeply attractive. Not the idea that they are impossible to reach, but the feeling that they are complete within themselves. The most magnetic people are often those who do not need to constantly announce their value. Their confidence is reflected in how they speak, how they treat others, how they handle challenges, and how peacefully they exist in their own world. A person who has a strong connection with themselves does not walk into a relationship asking, "How do I become enough for someone else?" They walk in knowing, "I am already enough, and I am choosing someone who recognizes that." And that quiet certainty can leave a much deeper impression than any attempt to impress ever could. There is a certain confidence that comes from a woman who knows who she is. She does not need to constantly seek approval because she already understands her own value. She can enjoy someone's presence without becoming dependent on it. She can express interest without losing herself. She can care deeply while still maintaining her own identity. That balance creates a powerful emotional impact. A person remembers how someone made them feel. A woman who brings peace, authenticity, and emotional honesty into a relationship creates an experience that is difficult to replace. In a world where many interactions feel rushed, performative, or focused on gaining something, genuine presence becomes memorable. It is not about pretending to be mysterious or playing emotional games. Real attraction does not come from creating confusion. It comes from being someone who feels emotionally grounded. A woman who listens with genuine interest, communicates openly, and makes someone feel seen creates a different kind of connection. She is not simply reacting to what is happening around her. She is present. She pays attention. She creates a space where another person feels accepted rather than judged. That kind of emotional safety can become incredibly meaningful. Many people spend their lives trying to become more impressive, but they forget the power of being real. The person who is comfortable with themselves often becomes more attractive because they are not constantly asking the world to confirm their worth. They are not saying, "Choose me because I need to be chosen." Their energy communicates, "I know who I am, and I am sharing my life with you because I genuinely want to, not because I need you to complete me." That difference changes everything. A woman who has her own passions, goals, friendships, and sense of purpose naturally creates a life that feels full. She does not disappear into a relationship, she brings her whole self into it. This creates admiration because the connection feels like a choice rather than an emotional dependency. The most memorable people are often those who allow others to experience something genuine. They do not create a temporary impression through effort. They create a lasting impression through authenticity. Because eventually, appearances become familiar, conversations become ordinary. The excitement of something new naturally settles, but emotional impact has a longer memory. The way someone made you feel respected, the way they encouraged you, the way you could be yourself around them, the way their presence felt peaceful instead of exhausting. These are the things that often stay in someone's mind long after the moment has passed. The woman who truly stands out is not necessarily the one trying the hardest to be noticed. She is the one who has built a relationship with herself so strong that she does not need to chase attention to feel valuable. And that is the quality people remember. Not perfection, not performance, not an image. Authenticity, confidence, emotional depth. Those are the qualities that turn a simple interaction into a meaningful connection. Something quiet. Something so unassuming that most women walk right past it every day, never realizing what's sitting right there in their hands. They use small gestures, not sweeping romantic moves, not anything staged or dramatic, just tiny, specific, understated actions that reach a man somewhere he wasn't guarding, somewhere deep. And once that spot gets touched, there's no undoing it. Here's the surprising part. Almost no woman actually uses these. Not because they're hard to pull off, not because you need some special gift for it, but simply because nobody ever pointed out how much they matter. Nobody ever drew the line between the small, effortless thing she did and the reason he's been unable to stop thinking about her for 3 days straight. Today, I want to draw that line for you. I'm going to walk through 7 of these small moves, explain the reasoning behind why each one lands the way it does, and show you how to let them happen naturally so they actually hit the way they're meant to. By the end, you'll understand something about men that most women spend years trying to crack and never quite manage. Here's something most women don't fully grasp about men, and I want to be clear, this isn't a knock against anyone. Nobody really breaks this down properly, so it's no surprise it gets missed. Men feel things far more intensely than they let on, more than they're usually given credit for. A man doesn't fall for a woman because of a witty line at dinner or because she looked stunning that evening. He falls because of the way she made him feel in one particular moment. And more often than not, that moment was tiny, not a heavy conversation, not something she orchestrated. It was something fleeting, something she probably didn't even register as important. A certain look, a touch that lasted 2 seconds, a silence where nothing was said but everything came through anyway. And his brain had already clocked all of it before a single conscious thought formed. That's not speculation, that's simply how people are wired. We're built to catch signals long before our rational mind can catch up. Researchers refer to it as the brain's threat and reward radar, constantly running in the background, scanning the room, scanning the person across from you, picking up on the energy they're giving off. So by the time a man consciously thinks, "There's something about her I can't put my finger on," his nervous system already reached that conclusion 5 or 10 minutes earlier. Based on something faint, something quiet. One of the 7 things we're about to get into. That's exactly what makes these gestures so effective. They bypass his thinking mind entirely and go straight to how he feels. And feeling is what actually changes things. The first one is the slow smile, not a big excited grin, not the polished smile reserved for photos, and not the polite smile you'd give a stranger behind a counter. A slow one. The kind that starts in her eyes before her mouth even catches up, like it caught her a little off guard, like something he said or did genuinely got to her and she couldn't help but react. Here's why this lands so differently than words ever could. Men watch women's faces far more closely than most women assume. He's constantly reading, constantly checking. Is she actually enjoying this or just being polite? Is she really glad to be here or is part of her somewhere else? Is what I'm saying actually connecting, or is she just nodding along? A big, wide smile doesn't tell him much because those are everywhere. Easy to put on, easy to fake, and he's seen thousands of them. They don't give him anything real to hold on to. But a slow smile, the kind that takes a second to surface, the kind that looks unplanned, that's the one he trusts. His brain reads it as genuine because real reactions don't come polished, they come uncontrolled. When a man catches that particular smile on a woman's face in response to something he said or did, something happens inside him that's difficult to explain but unmistakable to feel. It's warm, it draws him in, it makes him want to be the reason she smiles that way again, makes him want to repeat whatever he just did. And here's the beauty of this one. You genuinely can't fake it and have it work. Try to perform a slow smile and it just reads as strange, like you're making a face on purpose. The only way it happens for real is if you're actually present with him, actually listening, actually in the moment instead of stuck in your head. When you're truly there and something he says genuinely reaches you, that smile appears without effort. And when it does, he notices. He might not say a word about it, might not even consciously register it in the moment, but somewhere inside he felt it, and he'll be replaying that smile later when he's alone, wondering why he can't shake it. The second gesture is leaning in while he talks, not in an exaggerated, obvious way, just a small, natural shift of your body toward him while he's speaking. When he's mid-story, when he's explaining something that matters to him, when he's opening up about something personal, you lean in just slightly. Your body drifts closer without any big production around it, like gravity is quietly pulling you toward what he's saying. This works because of what it silently communicates. When your body moves towards someone while they're talking, you're sending a message that's nearly impossible to fake and incredibly powerful to be on the receiving end of. You're saying, what you're telling me matters enough that I want to be physically nearer to it. I haven't checked out. I'm not half here. I'm here. Think about how uncommon that actually is these days. Most conversations, even between people who genuinely like each other, involve someone who's only half tuned in, nodding while already composing their next sentence, eyes present but attention drifted off somewhere else 3 seconds ago. People are distracted, people are in their own heads, juggling 20 things even while sitting perfectly still. So when a woman leans in, when her body physically shifts toward him because she's genuinely drawn into what he's saying, his nervous system picks up on it instantly. She wants to be closer to me. She's actually listening, not performing attentiveness, actually doing it. And that feeling of being truly heard, of having your words land somewhere and actually matter to another person, is one of the most powerful things one person can give another. Men rarely get enough of that. Most spend a good chunk of their lives feeling like they're talking without really being heard. So when a woman offers him that without making it a big deal, something in him links that feeling of being genuinely heard specifically to her, and he starts craving more of it, more of her, not because of anything dramatic, just because she leaned in. The third gesture is using his name, simply working it naturally into conversation now and then, not constantly, not in a way that feels rehearsed or salesy, just every so often when it fits. That actually makes a lot of sense, Jake. I get exactly what you mean, Jake. Wait, how did that end up going for you, Jake? Something that simple, that small. And here's the psychology behind why it's quietly so effective. A person's own name is the most personally significant sound they'll ever hear. This has been documented in psychology for a long time. Hearing your own name triggers a different response in your brain than any other word does. It's immediate, it's personal, it cuts through everything else happening and lands directly on you as an individual. So when a woman uses a man's name in conversation, not in some strange, overdone way, just naturally, warmly, like it belongs exactly where she placed it, he feels it. He might not be able to articulate what shifted or why. He just senses that talking to her feels different from talking to anyone else. He feels like she's actually speaking to him, not just making conversation, not just filling space, but talking to him specifically, like he's a real, distinct person to her, and not just whoever happens to be sitting across the table. In a world where so many interactions feel interchangeable, like you could swap one person for another and nothing would change, being seen as a specific, real individual is genuinely rare. It makes him feel like he matters to her. And a man who feels like he genuinely matters to a woman he's drawn to is already halfway gone, already thinking about her differently, probably without even realizing why yet. The fourth gesture is remembering something small he mentioned once, something he said in passing, probably not expecting her to hold on to it. And then later, maybe that same night, maybe the next time they talk, she brings it up. Not in a heavy-handed way, not, I wrote down everything you said, just a simple, natural reference. Wait, didn't you say your brother's the funny one in your family? Or, how did that work thing turn out? Did it go the way you were hoping? Something that shows his words actually stuck with her, that she wasn't simply waiting for her turn to speak, that she was genuinely present, genuinely listening, and what he said actually settled somewhere inside her and stayed. This might be the most underrated gesture on the entire list, because what it communicates isn't just that she has a sharp memory. It tells him he mattered enough to be remembered, that what he said wasn't background noise, wasn't just another conversation that blurred into the rest of her day. She remembered him specifically, and for a man, that lands in a way that's hard to put into words. Here's something true about men that doesn't get discussed enough. They share things carefully, even the ones who come across as open and easygoing. When a man brings up something personal, even if he tosses it out casually like it's no big deal, there's a quiet part of him watching to see where it lands. Does she care? Did she actually catch that? Does any of it matter to her? And when she remembers it later and mentions it, not to make a moment out of it, just naturally, he gets his answer. She heard me. She remembered me. I mattered enough for that. And that answer does something that no amount of chemistry or physical attraction can replicate on its own. It builds trust, real trust, the kind that shifts how he sees her, from someone fun to spend time with to someone he actually wants to keep around. The fifth gesture is a light touch followed by pulling back, a brief, easy touch on his arm when something's funny. A quick touch on his hand while she's making a point. Natural, effortless, like it just happened because the moment felt warm. And then she moves on. No lingering, no big deal made of it. No checking his face for a reaction. Just a light touch, and then it's gone. Here's exactly why that combination works the way it does. Touch is one of the most direct forms of communication between people. It bypasses the analytical brain almost entirely and speaks straight to the emotional one. A light touch from someone you're drawn to sets off something in your nervous system, warmth, connection, a kind of aliveness that words alone can't create, no matter how well chosen they are. So the touch itself already carries weight, but the pulling back, that's where the real pull comes from. Because she touched him and then just kept going, like it was nothing, like she was completely at ease, like it was the most natural thing in the world. She didn't linger or make it awkward. She didn't glance over to gauge his reaction. She simply touched him warmly and moved forward. And now he's sitting there aware of his arm, aware of exactly where she touched, aware that the warmth has faded and part of him wants it back. He's more conscious of her now, more conscious of the space between them, more conscious of wanting to close that gap. And she created all of that with one small, effortless, completely natural moment of contact. That's how quietly powerful this gesture is when the timing is right. The sixth gesture is being comfortable with silence, not rushing to fill every quiet beat that comes up in conversation, just letting it exist, sitting in it easily. Not glancing around nervously, not jumping in with something just to break the quiet, just staying relaxed in the pause like she doesn't need anything to be happening in order to feel at ease. This one is genuinely uncommon. Most people, not just women, feel deeply uneasy with silence in social settings. It feels like something's gone wrong, like she's boring him, like she needs to say something clever or funny right now, or the whole interaction will fall apart. So she keeps talking, filling every gap with words, just to keep things moving because the quiet feels risky. But here's what actually happens when a woman is at ease with silence around a man. He exhales. Maybe not literally, but internally he relaxes in a real way, because she just released all the pressure. She's not performing, she's not anxious, she's not trying to steer the energy of the whole interaction. She's simply there with him, calm, at ease, like she's genuinely fine with wherever the moment goes. And that's remarkably attractive to a man, not in a shallow way, but in a deep, real one, because what her ease in silence tells him is that she doesn't need constant entertainment from him to feel okay. She doesn't need noise to feel safe. She's secure enough in herself to sit quietly with another person and be completely fine. And when a man senses that kind of calm coming from a woman, he relaxes too. He stops performing, he stops worrying about keeping the energy going, and in that quiet space, something real begins to form between them, an unspoken kind of connection, the sort that words would actually get in the way of. And that kind of connection, the one that lives in the silence between two people, tends to stay with him long after the moment has passed. The seventh gesture, and this is the one most women would never guess, is looking at him like she's proud of him. Not in a condescending way, not good job buddy energy, just genuine quiet pride. When he handles something well, when he says something truly smart or funny or kind, when he does something that took real effort or real character, she looks at him just for a second, just in her eyes, with a look that says, I see you, I see what you just did, and I think you're something. Nothing said out loud, no big deal made of it. Just that look for a moment, and then it passes. Here's why this one moves a man more deeply than almost anything else on this list. Underneath all the confidence and independence and "I'm fine, I've got this handled" energy that most men carry around, there's a quiet part of them that simply wants to know that a woman they care about truly sees them, not just what they do for her, not just the role they play, but who they actually are, what they're made of, what kind of person they become when things get real. And when a woman looks at him with that unspoken, genuine pride, she's telling him all of that without saying a word. She's saying, "I notice you, I see what you're doing, I think you're good." And a man who receives that from a woman he's drawn to is moved in the truest sense of the word. Not excited moved, not butterflies moved, but moved in a way that builds something lasting. Moved in a way that makes him feel, even without fully understanding it consciously, that this woman is different, that there's something here worth protecting, worth showing up for, worth becoming his best self around, because she already sees him that way and he doesn't want to let her down. Now here's what I really want you to take from all of this. These 7 gestures aren't techniques. They're not calculated moves designed to produce a specific outcome in a man. Because if you do any of them from a place of strategy, if you're performing rather than genuinely feeling them, he will pick up on it. Men are far more perceptive than they're usually given credit for. He'll sense the performance underneath, feel the gap between what you're showing and what's actually true. And the second he feels that gap, the whole thing falls apart. So the only way any of this actually works, the only way these gestures carry real weight and land the way they're meant to, is when they come from genuine presence, real interest, actual attention. Which means the real shift here isn't about memorizing 7 new behaviors to add to your repertoire. It's about deciding to actually show up fully when you're with him, to really listen instead of managing how you're coming across, to actually be in the moment instead of running calculations in your head about how things are going. When you make that shift, when you're genuinely present, these gestures start happening on their own. You lean in because you're actually interested. The slow smile appears because something he said genuinely got to you. You touch his arm because the moment feels warm and real, and your body simply responds. You use his name because you're actually talking to him, not just talking. And that's when it lands. That's when something shifts in him. That's when he goes home that night thinking about you, unable to quite explain why, and not really wanting to stop. The difference between a woman who catches a man's attention and a woman who wins his heart, that's what you've learned today. Attention is easy, it's everywhere. But his heart, that takes presence, that takes warmth. That takes the kind of small, genuine, quiet moments that most people are too distracted, too anxious, or too caught up in their own heads to actually offer naturally. You now know what those 7 things are. The slow smile, leaning in while he talks, using his name, remembering the small details he shared, the light touch followed by a natural pullback, being at ease with silence and looking at him like you're genuinely proud of him. 7 things, none of them difficult, none of them fake, all of them real, and every one of them more powerful than anything you could plan, script, or rehearse.